I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Sunflower Street. It's a cute little pattern, and I'll show it to you in a second. I thought that I'd share my screen so that you can also find it on our website easily. And I would like to share with you some of the pictures on my website as well. I'm not quite sure how to share my website without showing all of my computer, but anyway, if you go to your to www.victoriasampler.com, all you need to do is click on catalog, and then you can see patterns. And of course, Sunflower Street is a sampler. So then I click on samplers, and it will be in this collection somewhere. However, it is easier to do it this way. And there comes Sunflower Street, and that's how you can find that pattern. The good thing about this is that you can also see some of the close-ups on the side. And those close-ups really give you a good idea of the types of stitches that are in this pattern. So as you can see, there's lots of different stitches. One of them, for instance, is the Japanese ribbon stitch, which I will be able to show you today. And there's also some Japanese ribbon stitches right there. And unfortunately, we have no Hardanger stitches at the moment, but I'm sure I will be able to show you those as well. However, as you can see, there's the bullion knots, which make up the sunflowers on this band here, on the band below this band right here. All these are bullion knots, and I think those are some of the most difficult things that people find really difficult. So I thought that I would focus on that as well this time. This cute little video is brought to you by Thea Duick at the Victoria Sampler. So the first thing I wanted to show you were the silk ribbon stitches, which are the Japanese silk ribbon stitches. That's what they're called. I'm not sure whether the Japanese invented them, but for some reason, that's the name given to this very simple basic stitch, which is coming up in the linen and going down in the linen. But before you go down, you pierce the ribbon itself in order to make a pretty little leaf end. And you'll see me making one of those in a few minutes. What you might also want to know, however, is how to use your silk ribbon itself, because the silk ribbon is definitely a thread. It's something that you can thread through the eye of your needle, but it doesn't behave the exact same way as floss does. So I wanted to show you how to thread your needle and basically lock it onto the end of your needle or onto the eye of your needle. And when you do that, what happens is you can use more of the length of your silk ribbon, just using about 12 to 18 inches at a time, not very much more, because as you pull the silk ribbon through your linen, the linen itself is quite harsh on silk, and so it tends to kind of make the silk ribbon a little bit less pretty as it goes through the linen. So what we like to do is use shorter lengths and use them more often. So the one other important thing about silk ribbon is that you use knots. I know it sounds funny, but at the back, silk ribbon is anyway very bulky on the back of anything. So when you're using silk ribbon, with every single stitch, you have to be sure that your needle is not going through some silk ribbon that's already on the back of your work, okay? So get that out of the way. And then you can bring your needle up with a little snap, because the linen should be very taut, should be on some kind of a frame or some way that the linen itself is not loose in your hand. It's much harder to do silk ribbon in your hand. So try to put it in a hoop or in some stretcher bars or on a roller frame. And then once it's taut, you can pull your needle through with a bit of a snap. And that way it will pass the eye of the needle with the knot of silk ribbon on it, will pass through. And you'll see what I mean in a moment. I'm going to show you the video of how to prepare the silk ribbon on your needle. So as you can see, here are some silk ribbon stitches. These Japanese stitches have formed not a Japanese flower, but a sunflower. And you can see all the individual stitches right there. You can also see them there on the ends of the smaller sunflowers that are at the top of the paper. And you can also use these, but much smaller, in the lower part of the sampler, which, do I have a picture of that? Yes, here. So they can also be used right there. And you can enjoy using Japanese silk ribbon stitches, which I am going to show you right now. One of the other stitches that I've used in Sunflower Street is the satin stitch. You'll see a sawtooth edged band across the middle. And so I've included a quick video of some satin stitching that I took when I was teaching the Beyond Cross Stitch designs. So you'll see it's of some hearts, but basically with satin stitching, remember, when you come up through the fabric and you go down through the fabric, then make sure that you come up where you, again, near where you came up before. In other words, the direction of your stitch has to stay the same. So if you're going from bottom to top, then continue going from bottom to top. If you're going from top to bottom, that's fine. Just make sure your next stitch also goes from top to bottom. Okay, that's the real trick with satin stitching. And if you're using some kind of a floss that has a double strand, make sure that you either railroad or you lay your strands carefully so that the strands are side by side, or you can use a laying tool. What's another way of doing it? Let your thread hang down so that the thread is not twisted. That's the main thing. It makes the satin stitching look a lot better if your thread isn't twisted. Okay, and here's that video. Finally, we have the most favorite knot of them all, which is the bullion knot. I have to laugh because I've seen people cringe when I say bullion. It's not difficult if you get the idea. And one of the main tricks that I use is to make sure that I keep my needle, which has to be a straw or milliner's needle, so that it has a good eye at the end, so it doesn't catch on the wraps. When you keep your needle facing away from you to some degree, never have it pointing directly towards you because the system doesn't work as well. So I turn my fabric so that the needle is at least pointing away from my body in some direction. And I find then that whether I'm right or left-handed won't make a difference. I will be able to do a bullion knot much, much more easily. So again, get the right needle. It's a straw or milliner's needle, which means that the eye of the needle does not have a little bump at all. The shank of the needle is just completely even all the way to the very end of the eye of the needle. So here you have the satin stitches at the very top, a little sawtooth pattern, which looks really nice with this over-dyed thread, but it could also look really nice with a relatively plain thread. And then there are the bullion knot sunflowers in the vine that's in the middle of your sampler. That vine is very fun to do with just large back stitches or running stitches, whatever you like. And also the bullion knots in this case are straight. They're not curved. So make sure they're not overfilled with wraps, okay? When you're doing your wraps, have maybe try it out a little bit on the side of your sampler so that you can see whether or not you're doing it correctly, and make sure that your bullion knot is nice and straight and instead of being curved. Or maybe you can have a few curved ones if you want. Anyway, so that is the end of the Sunflower Street fun sharing the screens, etc. I've actually had a lot of fun trying how to do this. I've never done this before. So for me, this is my new fun thing to do in Mazatlan. So I hope you're enjoying it very much. Take good care of yourselves, and I will be back the next time with a Stitch Along Friday next Friday. I hope you enjoyed my little presentation. Sunflower Street is such a beautiful little sampler, and I remember when I stitched it to begin with, I had in mind this glorious feeling of it's almost fall, and that's the time of year it is now too. So I hope you enjoy it, and that this brings you some fun as you're stitching away yourself. And that maybe by, if there's something that you want to do, that you get the PDF and start stitching it yourself. Remember, you can change the threads that, you find. You can change them yourself. You can be very proactive and change the overdyes to some other design, to some other colors. Have some fun with this design because it's very forgiving. So I hope you have fun watching this, and I'll see you the next time at Stitch Along Friday, next Friday at 9:30 in the morning. Bye-bye.